Money isn't yours, yo, it's just your turn to spend it. That picture isn't yours, bro, it's just your turn, she said.
What? The album's out now, yeah? Okay then. Hot Takes, episode 6. The last couple years, Husky has been the feature king. This year so far, it's been Lisi. Let's look into this slightly. I mean, you say last couple years, but Husky's done a few features, to be fair. Uppers and Downers, which is a track I didn't catch, to be fair. Free Souls with Time Off. He did Indigo Merkaba's one with Filth, which is arguably his best feature from like the last year or so. Send Me to Hell with Forte and Curvy. Russell Coy, 10 Toes on the Road, which is also a banging feature verse as well. So Husky's dropped in and around the last year or so. He has dropped some feature verses, and some of them being quite notable. But I look at Lisi's features, and they are just unrivaled. Like, you got the feature with Say True God, the DJ Discretion one with Shelly 210, the Delawoo, the Chillin' It one, the Taking the Piss remix. Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue against what Lisi has done. So you know what? I'm not that mad at it. Saying, yeah, that is fair to be. Like, yeah, that's fair. That is a fair take. Trying to think, I mean, has Hef's had enough features recently? Hef's has had features on his tracks that have been banging. I mean, he's had the Manu Crooks one. If you count the Open Till Late track Riot, I mean, I just see that as him being part of the track. But regardless, okay. He had the Lifestyle track with Discretion and Lips. He had the H Taste remix. He had the Rover remix. I mean, in and around a year and a half or so. Hef's has had some notable ones too, to be fair. Yeah, I'd say they're your three heavy hitters. I mean, is there someone I'm massively missing out on? Who do you think has been the king of features in the last year to a year and a half? Fly Lacine is the sexiest rapper from Taz. I mean, sure, whatever floats your boat. Cursor is bigger, Rates is better. That's a big statement. I mean, this is very subjective. It's down to who you prefer and what style you prefer. Obviously, I know Cursor's discography is slightly better than Rates, but I have a decent enough idea of the two. And is it a fair statement to say that although they've both done the opposite of what I'm about to say, Cursor has slightly more club hits, he has slightly more like pill popper, I'm gonna fuck your girl and I don't give a shit because I'm the #1 guy over the last decade kind of content, and Rates can have some more down to earth, more personal, more introverted, like minded stuff. And I know that they've both done the opposite of what I've said about each other, but if you was to kind of categorize some of that, I mean, I know that's much of a reach, and to really give them a true reflection of what they've done and really give it justice, I'd probably have to sit here for an hour and explain. But I guess it's down to personal preference for that one. Yeah, it's definitely fair to say that Cursor is the bigger artist. I mean, there's not much bigger than Cursor, you know what I mean? Like, you have to really travel outside of Australia to really go bigger than Cursor. And Rates has a notable and credible career in his own right that stems away from Cursor, you know? It's Rates, not just Cursor's brother, you know. Certain people within history have got that label of being a family member or just being that guy that's always associated with someone else. And no, I think Rates has enough, definitely more than enough talent and enough class to stand on his own too. It's just down to who you prefer, I guess. Some artists would be bigger if it weren't for COVID. Yeah, 10 million %. I mean, look at it like this. Because of COVID, people weren't able to do shows. People weren't able, or they were less likely, should I say, they were able to, but they were a lot less likely to put out an album or a project because of the touring and the shows afterwards. Shows and touring has a big, huge, monumental part of a careers artist. Yeah, a careers artist, an artist's career. And it may have changed the course of some artists. It may have changed plans completely. I mean, it's tough enough that some artists have even survived and have even kept relevant and have even put out content during COVID, let alone gone and fucking, like, grown. Again, you gotta remember, a lot of these artists are not actually living off of music yet. They are still working 9 to 5s, and with most of these, man, not getting the same money, they've had to go and do other things. They may not have time to go and do music. Likewise, you could argue that some other people have had more time to work on music. but it's a whole different climate. It's, you know, people saying, oh, but what about all those creatives that had time at home? Is it not easier? It's definitely not easier. And so, as I said, yeah, the fact that some people have come out the other side of COVID and they're still relevant and still putting out content, that deserves an applause enough on its own too, let alone for artists getting bigger. And so the ones who did manage to grow and did kind of explode over this time, some of these men have only just started to perform their first song. Like, deep that. Certain artists that you've been listening to for like a year and a half have only now just started performing those tracks. Some of these, man, this is their first time ever performing and they've already got tens of millions of streams. Like, that's a pretty crazy jump. And so, yeah, 10 million% artists would be bigger if it weren't for COVID. Indigo Merkaba puts out too much music. Quality over quantity. I can see where you're coming from, but I disagree. And I disagree because Indigo Merkaba is one of the few rare occasions for most people, I would say, yeah, quality over quantity. The problem is, you gotta understand, Indigo Merkaba has this really weird talent of being able to flip and turn music around in a short space of time and still have the quality as high as it's ever been before. Now, that does lead me on to kind of flip that point and say, could you imagine if he did spend a year on a project as opposed to 48 hours? Could you imagine what the difference would be? Fuck a year, 6 months. Could you imagine? So it does then make me question, right, what if he did spend time on something? What would the end result be? What if he did have time to get the features he wanted? What if he did spend the time to... You get where I'm coming from? And I know he spent a little bit longer on something like Borderline, and I know that Nebs had a huge monumental part to play in that. But you could see that by that little bit of more time spent on something, the quality just, it does seem a little bit more there. Given that's right down my street though, and I really respected the subject matter of that project. So I can see where you're coming from, and with a lot of artists I would say that, but you can't say that, like, the quality ain't there with this man. Speaking of which, the features on the album, I'm just saying. That's it for today's hot takes. It's a little bit of a shorter episode. Less people were sending in there, so make sure underneath this video you comment your hot takes, and I'll make sure to go back to it. As well as, if you do follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to catch it when I put out the prompt. I'll try to get back to doing this more regularly. We started off doing it weekly and it's kind of fizzled out a little bit, but no, this is something I'm definitely interested in doing, and I might make it a themed episode for the next one. You never know. But still put yours down, because eventually I will get round to it, hopefully. So yeah, let me know your hot takes down below. Massively appreciate everybody who's supporting me, supporting the album right now. Thank you so much. And I know we mentioned Indigo Merkaba, you want to catch him, he's on the album, as I said. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's supporting.